Hello and welcome to the Raising Expert podcast. We've got Richard McMullan of Aurelius Advisory with us today. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Finlay.
How are you doing? How's life with you?
Life's treating me well, thanks. On the sunny north coast, I wish, on the sunny north coast of Northern Ireland. So, all good, thank you.
That's brilliant.
Yourself?
Yeah, the same. Recording here in sunny Perthshire, Scotland. So it's all good. Thank you very much. Listen, I've obviously we've chatted and done a research. I know that you're going to be a really interesting guest for our listeners here, and there's lots of synergy that we're going to be able to unpack. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then naturally that'll maybe give us your entrepreneurial story.
Okay, very quick potted history then. So, left uni in 1990, electronic engineer, went straight into banking in to become a systems analyst. Joined internal IT strategy, internal strategy consulting, projects like our bank in Germany's failing, how do we turn it round? What's the optimal pricing strategy for credit cards across the UK for the bank? What's the future of the UK motor market and how do we play in that game? Which was interesting in that we looked at a couple of business units and actually ended up divesting one of them for 350 million quid because we could see there was no future in it. We just thought 5 years' time that's going to go. Abbey National bought it. 5 years to the day we completed the project saying we've got to sell this. Abbey National wound it up with a loss of 1,000 plus jobs. So there's a classic in terms of, does your business have real growth potential? Is it really valuable, or are you just playing at it? From that, head of marketing and strategy for international trade at NatWest, 350 million, 170 million profit. Then moved home, moved back to Northern Ireland, became managing director of a fitted furniture company and took it from 1 million to 15 million before the crash. Lost about a third, plus 40% of the revenue. 2009, rebuilt it to 20 million in the next 4 years. Owner wouldn't sell, so I left. Our owner didn't want. We had different views on strategy. He didn't want to sell, so I left. Since then, been doing this Aurelius Advisory stuff, and I have a couple of businesses of my own, both of which, strangely enough, are being built to sell. Finlay. So that's the very quick history, mate.
No, that's brilliant. And listen, I really like that you've, in the nicest possible way, come down the food chain, if you like. You had a training, went into blue chip, and applied, classic business strategy, learnt the big lessons. A little bit like my training, most of my peers went off into, the big brewers, the banks, the retailers, and so on. And from quite an early stage, I was actually drawn into smaller business myself. And then you've got this brilliant insight because you've got involvement in your own businesses, which, looking at it from my eyes, working with investors and people trying to raise investment, you're almost the investor in those sort of businesses, aren't you? Because you're building them to sell, as you say. You've got management teams in, so that's really interesting. So tell us a little bit more about then Aurelius and how you're helping your clients.
So I suppose when I left the business I was running, I got a call after about a week after I'd left from I was in a CEO mastermind group, and one of the guys in the group rang me up and says, "Oh, have you left?" I'm like, "Yeah." "So you've done it?" "Yeah." "And what are you doing now?" "Nothing planned." Why do you ask, Joey? And Joey says, "Remember last year you told us we'd be stuck if we didn't change the way we ran the business and what we were thinking of." "Yeah." "Yeah." He says, "Well, I think we're stuck. Will you come and help?" So that was me back into consultancy, and I went and they were doing about 12 million at the time, making about 500,000 of EBITDA. So it was a good business. Within 2 years, we'd taken it to 28 million and 4.5 million of EBITDA, and had an offer on the table for a 10x approximately. We reckoned it was worth 10 times that. We didn't have an offer. That would have been nice, but we didn't. But so fabulous business. doing really well. So that was me back into it, and all the stuff. And I was advising those guys, so I wasn't in the business. Another couple of guys who I'd been in the CEO group with rang me up and asked me to do it, help them. So I drifted back into it, and really over the last 8 years now, I've helped about 120 plus owners build their businesses. Some have sold, some have got out, taken the penny, walked away. Some have part sold and rolled it in for a second bite of the apple with the acquirer. Some had just gone, you know what, this is a much nicer lifestyle. I don't need to work as hard as I did. I still love the business. I'll take my foot off the gas and not do 70 hours a week. And some have gone on, like that first client, like Joseph, to go on and build 4 or 5 other businesses. So main business doing matter of public record, probably do, I imagine, 50, 60 million this year, extremely profitable, and have 3 other fabulous businesses that are early stage, but on track to become very, very valuable businesses. So fundamentals are all the same. Industry's different, 30 sectors, but the fundamentals of what makes a valuable, sellable business are the same, really. I don't know if I answered your question there or not, Finlay, in terms of Aurelius.
You have done. I'm just wondering, because I've got a little bit of an insight. I wonder if you could even just go back and almost give us your kind of the elevator pitch for those people that are who, you know, I'll put your web link into the show notes and stuff like that. But maybe people who are coming at a completely first time to go, right. What is Richard doing here?
Yeah. So what I do at Aurelius is basically I help owners get themselves and their businesses ready for a happy, lucrative, regret-free exit whenever they choose to do that. So that's it.
That's it. That's nice, and I've read that copy, and you've obviously thought about how you present that to people, and what I liked as well about doing a little bit more research was that you kind of say, well, let's prepare you for that eventuality, but I think you unpacked it a little bit, talking about one of the case studies to say, well, come away from the 70 hours. Get a managing director in. This is a good business. I still love it, but you take on a different role. And what you help people do is kind of professionalize a little bit, not wanting to put anyone down, and you know those fundamentals. So actually, then you go, oh no, this is a great business, and I can, let's imagine, play golf or something like that, and have a business and have a life and so on. So I really like that. A lot of what I do under investor readiness, and hopefully people can see how they join up, maybe not directly, but maybe with a 3 or 5 year gap or whatever. I always say to people, listen, let's start with the objective that you're trying to raise investment. I don't force anyone into doing that. And the byproduct is a much better business. If you make yourself investor ready and genuinely do that, you mentioned EBITDA. Sometimes you even have to go, right, this is what EBITDA is, and this is how we create the line, and to then talk in those terms to investors, but other advisors at that point. And all those other things, to have all that information at your fingertips, and lo and behold, the business runs better because you've done that. It's like, well, maybe you're ready in 2 years' time, or maybe you just keep it, and someone like you helps them in the final stages to go, right, let's now just get it ready for a full sale or whatever. So good stuff.
I suppose I also I sort of split owners into two groups, into two camps, if you will, when they come to talk to me. There's people who want to get out in 3 years' time. So that's quite an intense process. And then there's people saying, like some of your potential guys saying, you know what, I want to build this and sell it in 20 years' time or 10 years' time. And the stuff around the value acceleration flywheel that I have is all aimed at creating that value. But so that's that bit. When you get to a certain scale, how do you professionalize it? But your point around being investor ready, regardless of size. So, I know you're working with mainly that startups and those early stagers. investor ready is such a great term, because if you're investor ready, your business, as you say, your business runs better. You've better insights into what's going on. You're starting to build a team. You've got clear line of sight to where your growth's coming from and how you're going to make cash. You got that. Even if you can't get investors, you've got a better you've got a better business, and you're going to last longer and enjoy it more. But if you have those things and a great story around it, then you're going to be attractive to investors without a doubt.
Yeah, no, totally with you on that. And I'll maybe put you on the spot a little bit and ask you, because you do look at your businesses through sort of investor eyes, sidetrack a little bit. What would be the attractive features, or what are the fundamentals that you would look for? I know that you've got the skills and experience to bring some of that in, but sometimes there's got to be fundamentals there. Otherwise, it's never going to happen, is it?
So I suppose I look at it through. So I'm a certified value builder. So and we use 8 dimensions to measure the value of where you're at and what you could be worth. But I simplify it to 3 things. Really, it's like a 3-legged stool. Can the business run independently of you? In the day-to-day operation. So is there owner autonomy? Do you have, or are you on the path to sustainable, profitable growth? And is there a long runway in front of you, great growth potential? And then thirdly, can you demonstrate how, or if you are delivering predictable, reliable, free cash flow, i.e. money that's distributable to investors after paying down your debt? If you get those 3 things, simplistically, you have a valuable, sellable business. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. So when I dig deeper, I'm looking to say what I call, do you have a self-driving team? So is there a leadership team in behind you, people in behind you that are bought into where you're going, how you're going to get there, and are driving the business for you and doing what's needed? Do you have a gang of evangelical ambassadors and a way of attracting and converting and keeping and winning and keeping those people? So an evangelical ambassador, raving fans, if you will. So they love what you do. They don't quibble. They do what you tell them to. They pay you a premium, and they're telling all their mates about you. And then the third element is around how robust and resilient is the business. So as you're the leader, you should be the value architect. So you should be about culture, about strategy, about the value of the business. You need to make sure you're not dependent on any one customer, supplier, or employee, particular employees. And you need a reporting framework that gives you incisive insights around what numbers do you look at that tell you you're going to hit your 1-year number. Are you tracking your operating cash flow, your self-funded growth, and a series of things like that? So if you've got those things in place, your business will be a lot more fun to run. You'll be making a lot more money, and you'll have a happier bank manager and investor. Or you'll be able to sell if you wish, whenever the time comes.
That's brilliant, and I'm going to use that little soundbite and capture some of that to give as a target to some of the people that I work with, and say, look, don't worry, all this isn't going to be in place right now. It's early days for you, but maybe after the round that I'm helping them with, and maybe even the one before that, is like, listen, let's build that management team out. Let's get those systems in place. Let's go back and listen to what Richard advised at that point, and have something to aim for, and knowing that then there's that you can guide. I think I'll make sure again, the web address is there. You've got some great resources, some great advice. I think you're very open with your advice and your resources on the website to help people understand that. And obviously, what we do sometimes, if it's a technical founder or technical team, they need people like us to help them. Let's be honest about that. So yeah, no, thanks for that. Nice insight. And I love how you've brought some of this really strong learning from your early career and are bringing it down into these businesses. And you've got a really interesting little bit of it's arithmetic, really, isn't it? It's produce 0.3%, the elite 0.3% that you call. And I've read all the what is sales copy, but it's very convincing. And why don't you just talk us through that arithmetic? I'm sure you'll have it off the top of your head.
Yeah. So taking a little step back from that, I was looking to buy into a business a number of about 5 years ago. I was looking to do what's either an MBI or what's management buy-in, or what's known as a BIMBO, a buy-in management buyout. And I met a couple of potential private equity backers, and so I was looking around, and if you can imagine the 28-year-old in the dark blue suit, very well cut suit, the cutaway collar, the perfect double Windsor knot, the Brill cream look, and all of this, saying, "Oh yeah, we love Northern Ireland because oh yeah, it's you used the word professional. They were because it's so unprofessional. The management, great businesses, but the owner's doing all the work. We can get the owner out, buy the business, we can flip it in 3 years for 3, 4, 5 times what it's worth." And I'm thinking, well, that sounds great. And then I'm thinking, but I don't want to work with you guys, and I don't like that. So, and that then got me to thinking, well, what do the statistics say about this? How does this play out? And so, to come back to your question, roughly 65 to 75% of owners never even get their business listed for sale. So they want to sell it, but it never even gets listed for sale because the broker or the corporate finance advisor looks at it and says, "I'm sorry, you have no value there because you are the business, or there's no growth potential, or it's too risky." Yeah, just fundamentally, you have nothing to sell. And you hear of all these stories of people dying, of people losing their businesses, having to wind it up because of a health scare. I talked to a guy on LinkedIn a few weeks ago who'd had to close his business because he had a heart attack during the year, lost the business. So that's 65 to 75% never actually get listed for sale. Of those that do manage to get a listing, either because they do it on a business broker website or they convince somebody to put it up for them, 80% fail to sell. Yeah, so only 1 out of every 5. So we're now down to, say, let's take 1,000. We have 25 get listed. Of the 25 that get listed, 5 sell.
Wow.
Roughly. And then of those, 95% don't get the money they want, and 75% regret it. So when you start taking it down, roughly 3 in 1,000 of people of owners have a happy, lucrative, and regret-free exit, as I would describe it. So the statistics are quite harrowing. Now, they're mainly US statistics, but I personally think they're worse in the UK, because in the US you have something called the SBA loan, which is a government-backed loan for people to buy businesses with.
Okay.
And that enables a lot of sales that we couldn't get here because the bank won't fund it. So roughly 3 in 1,000. I call them the elite 0.3%, as you've said, because they're the ones that have done it. They've put in the sweat, blood, tears, and walked away going, "That was good. I'm pleased with that." And when I say happy exit, there's a book by Ben Birmingham, called Finish Big, where he interviewed maybe a couple of hundred people who'd sold their businesses in the US and I think UK as well. And he says most owners bitterly resent and are deeply depressed after exiting their business. Yeah. So of the people he spoke to, so it's unhappy is perhaps a light touch to describe it. So yeah, so that's where the elite 0.3% comes from.
No, it's nice, and it's quite shocking. And you see the figures that, quite a good number still relatively sell, but I think to kind of qualify that a little bit and say that are satisfied, or highly satisfied, that there's regrets. So it's all very well you're out, but maybe then the pension pot doesn't look just quite as good as it should have. So again, I think that's a great target for people. So they, to get into that fairly elite number, that's a challenge. It made me think a little bit of talking about due diligence with people. And at quite an early stage, I start to talk to businesses about having a data room and preparing for due diligence. And they're like, oh, come on, give me a break. I'm just trying to raise 100,000 my first round. And really, am I going to have to do due diligence? And I give them a big checklist and say, look, I admit that could be, that comprehensive list would do you, a Series A round if you could fill it in. If you have to leave a few blank, that's fine. But let's try and prepare to that sort of level now. It doesn't have to be sophisticated, a data room, it's Google Drive or it's Dropbox, and it can still do exactly what it needs to be done. So it's just that level of professionalism again. And if you do that, then when we're starting to have the conversation that you do, it's like, well, we've been doing that for 3, 5, 10 years, and the information's getting better and better. And the poor chap that you spoke to with health reasons, listen, you might not have 6, 12, 18 months to prepare. Someone just comes in, then it's like, right, let's sell the business. And if you've got that kind of mindset as you go, touch wood, people don't have that. But hey, it does happen.
That's fabulous advice, and you probably shouldn't have told them on the podcast because you should be charging them a fortune for that.
That's right. I should learn to just leave little things out, Richard. Kick myself here.
But it is, and data room sounds really scary, doesn't it? And people panic. But if you're giving them that list, and it's just like, all your flipping employment contracts, make sure they're easy to find. Make sure the contracts with the suppliers are easy to find. They're all there. And nothing, sorry, not nothing, but one of the things that really impresses a prospective investor, certainly, the people I deal with, is when you say, can I see your data room? And they go, yeah, there you go. There's the login, the username, the password, the link. Away you go. Fill your boots, my friend. It's all there. It's just like, now I don't get involved, in that due diligence end, but help clients prepare for it. Investors love it because they go, this is a switched on business owner who's all over their business. It's all there. This is easy. And in terms of thinking of valuations, what people are paying for are really about your future cash flow. Mm-hmm. I'm buying future cash flow, and I'm going to discount that future cash flow depending on the risk associated with getting that money. And so the more you can do to de-risk it for the investor, the better. And having a data room and looking as if you're so super organized, you've got a full data room, it's all there, that de-risks it, so they will pay you more for those future cash flows. It's fabulous advice. It's really simple, and it's much easier to start at the beginning and build it up than it is to try and build it after 10 years of trading. That's really hard.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you agree, but you're right. I'll try and not do the full advisory piece every time I record a podcast. So listen. This has been a great conversation. With some of your historical stuff, you've given us some of the your use cases, and I know you've got some of them testimonials on the website as well. People can go and have a look at. You're busy just now, you told us, which is great. Are you finding, the economic backdrop? We know there's challenges in certain ways, but maybe it benefits some ways. Is that in the here and now? Is that having much of a headwind?
So in terms of, it's really interesting actually, as you say. There's there's a headwind for a lot of trading companies, the guys that I'm dealing with that are thinking of exiting in 5, 10 years, in that recruitment's really difficult at the moment because of a tight labor market. Because of the stuff we do with them, it's easier for them. They're not finding that as hard because they've got a really strong culture. They're going places. People can relate to what they're doing. They like the way they run the company, and so they're finding it easier to recruit than most are. Inflation's really tough, that bit about suppliers putting up their prices, but because they're sort of in premium land, it's easier for them. And then, banks being tight-fisted, money is hard to get if you want to invest, so you need to be throwing off cash flow. So those are headwinds, and I'd be telling you lies if I said all my clients were having a ball. They're not. but they're doing okay. So relatively, I have one client whose sales are flat year on year, but he's probably 35% ahead of the market because of a lot of the stuff we've done the last couple of years,
You've
because
got to
it's all
see the
just
whole
gone backwards.
context, haven't you, to
Yeah,
understand how well
yeah,
people are doing. Yeah.
yeah. And he's furious about it, Finlay. He's like, we're only flat and beating the salespeople. And it's like, let's just have a look around. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's all difficult in business, but if you put yourself in the shoes of, so there's a rule called the 5 to 20 rule, which is basically your acquire will be between 5 and 20 times bigger than you. And the reason for that is because if I'm the CEO of £100 million company, I'm probably looking to grow at 20% per annum. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
between 10 and 20%. I am not going to get that from organic growth, so I need to buy something. So I need to buy something that moves the needle. So I need to spend, so typically it's going to be 1/20th or 1/5 of the size of my business. If I buy that, it moves the needle. I impress the board. I look good. So there's a 5 to 20 rule. So your strategic acquirer will be 5 to 20 times bigger than you. So if I'm a strategic acquirer and I'm against these headwinds, I am looking for good businesses to buy because they're like hen's teeth, because I don't want to be buying a unique set of problems. So it's actually in some ways quite a good time to sell because good
Got
businesses
you.
are hard to come by.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's a nice
like
way of
all these
putting it.
things, swings and roundabouts, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Good. No, thanks. That's a nice insight of seeing the silver lining, if you like.
Mm.
And so then the obvious next question is, well, what's next for you and the consultancy, or your businesses, your other businesses?
So to the consultancy, the thing that's eating my time at the moment is writing the book. First draft is due out by just before Christmas, hopefully published by end of March next year. I'll do it sooner if I can, but there's a process that we follow. So that's that. My own trading businesses, it's knuckle down, try and double the size of those in the coming year. We'll do both of them will probably just be about 1.8 this year. I'd like to get them to 3.5 next year. My MD is looking after that. She's a fabulous lady. She started the business at the age of about 26, 27. So she started up, she bootstrapped it. We were her first investor, and we basically all the stuff that I teach clients, I'm teaching Alexandra and working with her on. So I'm eating my own. Sorry, I was going to say something there. I'm taking my own medicine, Finlay.
Taking your own medicine. That's the polite way of putting it.
Taking
Yeah.
my own medicine is the phrase. So yeah, and then at the moment, I have, for people further down the line, I've run depending on where they're at, I have the Elite 0.3% program, which is, I think I'll be able to take on 2, maybe 3 more people next year on that. That's the
Okay.
10-year exit plan. And I have a boot camp I do for people where we say it's a 15-week crash course, if you will, where we say, what does a happy and lucrative and regret-free exit look like for you? How are you going to get that in terms of what are your exit options, which is most suitable, and therefore what's going to give you that? And then part 3 is putting the plan in place to get your business structured in a way that that exit option happens in the timeframes you want. So that's a new program. So I've been doing it individually, but I'm now doing it as a boot camp with 10 owners at a time. So that'll be starting in the new year. So those are the
That's great.
things that are keeping me busy, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
play golf and paddleboard and that sort of stuff, and
Yeah, well, listen,
do all of
let's
that.
not get dragged into a conversation about golf. We'll end up boring everyone, and it's miserable at my golf. So we can do that another time, and
Mm,
hopefully we get a whack a ball together sometime. That would be
that would be
nice.
good.
But listen, really, great talking to you. I really enjoyed that, and I think you've managed to pack so much value into that half hour that we've spoken for. We'll signpost people to your programs, to the website, as I said, and probably going to publish this so then people will just be looking out for the book to drop as well. No pressure. But that was brilliant. Thanks, Richard.
Pleasure, Finlay. Thank you.
Thanks.